The diner went silent the moment they walked through the door. Not the kind of silence you get when someone drops a glass or when a couple argues too loud. This was different. This was the kind of silence that crawls up your spine and sits in your chest like a stone. 6 men in black leather vests, boots heavy against the linoleum floor, chain wallets clinking with each step. The patch on their backs told you everything you needed to know. Hell's Angels, Northern Arizona chapter. The kind of men who didn't need to raise their voices to command a room. The waitress stopped mid-pour. A trucker at the counter kept his eyes on his coffee. A family with 2 kids quietly asked for their check. Nobody made eye contact. Nobody moved unless they had to. And then from a corner booth near the window, a voice cut through the tension like a blade. Calm, steady, fearless. Hello, sir. My daughter has a tattoo just like yours. Every head in that diner turned not toward the bikers, toward the old woman who had just spoken. She was small, maybe 70, with silver hair tied back and hands folded neatly on the table in front of her. She wasn't trembling, wasn't looking down. She was looking right at the man in front, the leader. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a gray beard and eyes that had seemed too much. His name was Cal Mercer, though nobody in that diner knew it yet. He stopped walking. His crew stopped behind him. And for a moment, the only sound in the room was the hum of the refrigerator behind the counter. Cal's jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. Not in anger, in something else. Something heavier. He took one slow step toward her booth, boots creaking. And when he spoke, his voice was low and rough. What did you just say? The woman didn't flinch. She repeated herself slower this time like she wanted to make sure he heard every word. My daughter, she has a tattoo just like the one on your vest. Cal's hand moved to his chest, fingers brushing over the patch sewn into his leather, a skull with wings, faded, worn, but unmistakable. He stared at her for a long moment, and then he asked the question that would change everything. What's your daughter's name? The woman's voice didn't waver. Marianne. Marianne Hayes. The diner stayed frozen, but inside Cal Mercer's chest, something cracked wide open. That name hadn't been spoken inside the club in over 12 years. Before we continue this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Because what happens next in this diner is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty, fear, and the people society tells you to be afraid of. Now, let me ask you something. When you see a group of bikers walk into a room, what's your first instinct? Be honest. Do you look away? Do you assume the worst? Do you grip your wallet a little tighter? Keep your head down. Hope they don't notice you. Most people do. And that's exactly what everyone in that diner was doing, except for one woman. Eleanor Hayes, 72 years old, retired nurse, widow, mother. And the only person in that room who wasn't afraid. But here's the thing. She should have been, because the men standing in front of her weren't just bikers. They were enforcers, protectors of a code most people will never understand. And the tattoo she just mentioned, that wasn't just ink. It was a mark, a promise, a blood oath that hadn't been called on in over a decade. So why did her daughter have it? And why did Cal Mercer look like he'd just seen a ghost? Let's go back 12 years earlier. Las Vegas, summer heat thick enough to choke on. A stretch of desert highway 20m outside the city limits. That's where it happened. Cal and 2 of his brothers were riding back from a run. Nothing unusual, just 3 men, 3 bikes, and a long stretch of empty road until they weren't alone anymore. A black SUV came out of nowhere. No headlights, no warning, just speed and intention. It rammed the back bike, sent the rider tumbling across the asphalt at 70 mph. The other 2 tried to brake, tried to swerve, but the SUV boxed them in, forced them off the road, into the dirt, into the rocks. Cal's bike went down hard, his shoulder dislocated on impact, his ribs cracked, blood in his mouth, dust in his eyes, and through the haze, he saw men getting out of the SUV. 4 of them armed, not cops, not rivals, something worse, hired, professional. They were there to send a message, and that message was written in violence. Cal's brothers fought back. One of them, a man named Tommy Vega, took 2 bullets to the chest before he even got his hands up. The other, a younger rider named Kyle Brennan, managed to grab a tire iron and swing it hard enough to crack one of the attacker's skulls, but he went down, too. 3 broken ribs, collapsed lung, internal bleeding. Cal was the last one standing barely. He threw punches, took hits, felt his vision blur, felt his knees buckle. And just when he thought it was over, just when he was sure he'd die on that desert road, a car pulled up. A old sedan, rusted, dented, out of place. The door opened, and a woman stepped out. She wasn't big, wasn't armed, wasn't a fighter, but she didn't run. She shouted. Loud enough to make the attackers turn. Loud enough to buy Cal 5 seconds. 5 seconds to grab Kyle's tire iron. 5 seconds to swing it one more time. Hard enough to make the men scatter. Hard enough to make them retreat to their SUV and peel out, leaving dust and blood and silence behind. The woman rushed over. Cal tried to stand. Couldn't. His body was done. She knelt beside him, hands already moving, checking his pulse, his breathing, his wounds. "I'm a nurse," she said. "Stay with me." Her name was Marion Hayes, 28 years old. On her way home from a double shift at a hospital in Vegas, she had no reason to stop, no reason to get involved, but she did. She loaded Cal into her car, drove him not to a hospital where questions would be asked, but to a friend's place. A quiet house off the grid. She stitched him up, gave him fluids, kept him stable, and when the men who attacked him came looking, she lied, told them she hadn't seen anything, took the risk, kept him hidden for 3 days until his brothers could come get him. She never asked for money, never asked for protection, never even asked his name. She just did what she thought was right. And then she disappeared back into her life like nothing had happened. But Cal didn't forget. None of them did. When he healed, when the club regrouped, they tried to find her, tried to thank her, tried to repay the debt. But Marion had moved, changed her number, stayed off the grid. All they had was her first name and the memory of what she'd done. So Cal made a decision. He had the club's tattoo artist draw up something special. A skull with wings, the club's mark, but with one small difference. A flaw in the design. A deliberate imperfection that only the brothers would recognize, and he had it inked onto